Italian Football Podcast.
I want to do a tribute to Gianluca Vialli, who sadly passed away on Friday at the age of 58. Very, very sad. 5-year battle with pancreatic cancer. Horrible cancer. It's one of those that, we know with pancreatic cancer it's a very difficult one to treat. We're going to remember today a truly special human being and just a legendary footballer. So this is a tribute to Luca. First of all, with Nima, I want to remember Vialli the human. So I want to talk about him as a person first before we talk about him as a footballer. And what a special human being he was.
He really was. He was very kind. Usually when this the thing we do as people, don't we? This notion that when someone dies, we almost we remember them in somewhat dishonest light. Oh, he was so fantastic and this and that. But with Vialli, he was genuinely very kind. He truly was a very good person. He was very thoughtful and nice. And anyone who's ever met him will say that will attest to this. I've not met a single person who's had a single bad thing to say about him. Not a single person.
No, not me. Not just not a bad thing to say about him.
Only good things, yeah.
Everybody had a story about Vialli, being nice to them, about, how he was just so, went out of his way to help people. If you all the stories of teammates and people that work with him, down from teammates to just the tea lady and the kit man and how he treated everyone, like, with such respect. And, I think I tweeted one out on Friday, a personal story of mine, how 2 years ago, before the Euros, I tried to set up an interview with Vialli on the Italian Football Podcast, and I contacted Vialli's agent and said I would like to do an interview. Is it possible, please? And then she called me one day. She goes, you free right now? Have you got a moment? I said, yeah, I'm available. She goes, I'm just gonna put you through. And I was like, I wasn't sure what she meant. The next thing I know, it was Gianluca Vialli on the phone, and he was like, "Ciao, Carlo. How are you?" And I was like, "Oh, wow." I go, I wasn't expecting to speak to you. And he was just like, "Oh, no, it's, I just think it's better to speak to people in person. And how are you? How's everything? How's life? He was really nice. What to ask me how my career was, how my family was. And we'd never met before. We didn't know each other personally. I don't even know if he knew who I was. He probably didn't even know who I was. He wanted to speak to me. And the only the reason why he wanted to speak to me is he wanted to tell me in person that he couldn't do the interview. Instead of just leaving it to his agent and the agent saying to me, "Oh no, Gianluca's not available. Gianluca can't do it." Or, as often happens, anybody that's ever tried to get interviews, often you don't even get a reply. Most of the time, I would say about 70% or 80% of the requests you make, you don't even get a reply from the person you ask, whether it's you ask them directly or whether you go through an agency or an agent. You won't even get a reply. Gianluca went out of his way to call back a stranger just to tell them tell them directly, I can't do the interview. And he said, the way that he said it at the time was, he said, at the moment, I'm not doing any interviews. I just don't feel up to it at the moment. Those were the words that he used. And when he said that, the first thing I thought in my mind was, I was a little bit worried, because at the time he was cancer free. He had cancer originally. I think it was in 2017. Then he got the all clear, I think maybe 2019-ish, maybe. Or 2020, and then this was I think beginning of 2021, some point in 2020. And when I heard that, I don't know when he got re-diagnosed, but at the time I remember thinking, I was really worried. And I thought, I really hope it hasn't come back, or maybe it hadn't. Maybe he just wasn't feeling that well, because he has suffered a lot in these last 5 years. But I just thought, and I said to him straight away, the first thing I said to him as soon as I said that, what, Gianluca, I have more respect for you doing this than if you would have accepted to do the interview. Because for him to tell me directly he couldn't do the interview, I just thought that is the most respectful thing that I think anybody's ever done in the media industry. And he was saying no to me. And I just thought, wow, just amazing. And so many people have got little. I mean, that's only a little story, but so many people have got stories like that about Gianluca, about how he helped people, and just what a kind-hearted person he was. And that's why, I mean, I shed a tear for him when he died, because I just, he was just such a lovely person, really was.
He really, really was. He really, really was.
And he did. I mean, he did a lot for charity. I mean, raising money for research into ALS, the Lou Gehrig's disease, which is a really horrible disease. It's just affected a lot of sports people. I mean, it's a degenerative disease that affects the motor neurons. We've seen a lot of sportsmen that have suffered from this after their career. And there's definitely something that's going on during their career, I think, that's causing this. And Stefano Borgonovo, the former Fiorentina player, is probably the most famous example. Played alongside Baggio. Vialli raised an incredible amount of money into this, and then later went for cancer as well. And just his whole human story was really fascinating, because I mean, he came from a really rich family. I don't know how many people know this, but he grew up in a 30-room mansion in a multi-millionaire family. Yet he was so determined to, he didn't need to work a day in his life. Yet he was so determined, had so much determination to make it as a footballer. But to do it on an equal level with everyone else. He didn't have anyone opening doors for him. He made his own way, and he treated everyone with respect. And what you can often get with people that come from upper class backgrounds or middle class backgrounds, or even lower middle class backgrounds, is that there is that kind of, they haven't lived in the real world, and there can be, even if it's not deliberate, there can be that kind of, the working class people or the ordinary people are just almost beneath them. Vialli treated everyone with respect. He was always smiling. There's some great stories. Graham Souness told some fantastic stories about them. Practical jokes. He was a bit of a practical joker. Vialli. Some of the jokes that he played on Souness. Souness pushed him into a lake before a game, and Vialli to get his to get revenge on Souness, he did various things during the spell. He sprayed shaving foam into Souness's shoes. He cut the legs off the Souness's Armani suits, which cost a lot of money. There's a great story about how Vialli put Parmesan cheese into the handkerchief of Arrigo Sacchi when he was Italy coach, and then Sacchi then put the handkerchief into his top pocket and ruined his suit. He liked to ruin his suits, Vialli, and that actually apparently played a role in Vialli being dropped by Italy, because those two didn't actually get on, and then he didn't go to Italia 90 and didn't play again after that. So he was just a great person to be around, just the perfect person to have as your friend and be around, isn't it? That brings joy, laughter, but also kindness. He was such a very empathetic person. I mean, that's the perfect person, isn't it? That's what you want from a person, isn't it? You've got everything. You've got all sides of it. You've got all sides of that you want from a person. And obviously, the human role that he played in Italy winning the Euros, you can see why he played such an important role, didn't he, in Italy winning the Euros, because he brought all of that to the table. For
me, that image of him and Mancini crying in each other's arms, given how close they were, childhood friends who grew up together, and for them to, Mancini was as synonymous to Vialli's career as Vialli was to his, and to see them kind of come full circle and win the Euros together, and the fact that Vialli turning up late to Italy's first group stage game, which they won convincingly. And then after that, Italians being superstitious, that's something they had to do. Everyone had to go on the bus and wait for Vialli to come running on before they left. And he was... I
loved also the scene of him with the water bottle when he turned his back, the superstition, turning his back on the penalty.
Yeah, and the speeches, the books that, the quotes that he read ahead to the team ahead of the game.
That one great story, wasn't it? That you read out. I mean, wow. I mean,
no, he was truly a great person, and I can't help but to think, of course, of his family, immediate family and friends, but also, above all, I do want to send a thought to Roberto Mancini, who in the space of a few weeks has lost two of his closest friends in football, in Sinisa Mihajlovic and Gianluca Vialli.
His two closest footballing friends. They were his two friends, his two best friends in football.